Howdy, friends. I know it's been a little while since I've streamed or shot anything, but about a week ago, our good buddy Clever with the Dynacap project sent me a little care package, and in that care package was pretty much a full set, full stack of their parts, with the exception of stab wires and springs. So I'll be using some other third party for those. But I wanted to show off what I do believe is the world's first OEM converted to MX using Dynacap HHKB out there. So I know there's been a lot of talk in the discords and on YouTube and elsewhere about whether or not these parts are fully compatible with with OEM or not. And that has been both from the question of, are the sliders compatible with the housings, the plates, as well as are OEM sliders compatible with the Dynacap housings. So I've got a few things I wanted to show off here. First of all, this is the HHKB. I'm not going to pull all the caps, but you can see these pretty red Dynacap sliders here. As far as the build goes, this is just your standard, professional classic from 2021. It is running a Cipulot EC60x with a Pro 3 full-size daughterboard in it from our good buddy Cip. The domes are Dynacap 55 gram, I believe Silicone domes in kind of that rounded OEM profile. Springs are PBB conical springs, which I've applied some 105 oil lube to. The keycaps are an old GMK ABS doubleshot set called Solarized that I picked up back in the day. The housings are, of course, the OEM integrated housings, with the exception of the spacebar stab housings. Those are Dynacap. And they do have the 0.4 millimeter silicone housing gasket to prevent rattle in the OEM plate. If you don't know, Dynacap is designed for a 1.5 millimeter plate thickness, and most OEM, both in the HHKB with the integrated housing plate, as well as aftermarket like the show plates, the the various runs of the Plato plates, are all kind of standardized around 1.2 millimeters. So a little difference there, but our good buddy Clever thought about that, and so he's got some 0.4 millimeter housing gaskets that will kind of compress down to 0.3 and take up that slack and prevent any kind of rattle. Let's see. The sliders are, of course, Dynacap. They're, the MX compatible sliders. And I'm trying to, let me see if I can get it focused. But if you see, you notice that cruciform there in the middle kind of pokes up around, the height of the barrel. And I think that's where the magic happens. And I know people were also asking, do these still cover up the skirts? Does it leave an unsightly, gap? You can see how yellow these caps have gotten, but no, I don't think it's leaves any kind of gap. So I feel like these are pretty good for what they're doing and how they're kind of what they are what they're changing to allow or to remove potential keycap interference. But that's a lot of talking. I know you guys have been waiting for the sound test, so let's just jump into it. There we go. All right, so let's play around with the caps here. And just in case anyone's forgotten or wants the comparison, this is a straight out of the box. I believe, what year is this? This is also a 2021, so same year as that one, but this is fully stock OEM, nothing touched. All right, so that's a little bit of a comparison there for you. You know, obviously this one does have 55-gram domes. It has ABS caps. As far as the silencing on this one goes, I do have the Dynacap 0.5 millimeter silicone ring, so that has pour on. You know, the lubing I mentioned, the 105 on the springs, which are PBB. It also has 206 G2 in the stabs. But you know, the newer hybrids, the newer Pro 3 generation, they've also been lubing the stabs a little bit better, so I kind of, you know, call that one a wash. Yeah, but that's the sound of it. I did also want to show off one more thing real quick while I'm here. So I've been using this tester to kind of compare stuff. The way that it's set up now, it has the Dynacap housings, so you can kind of see little differences in the housings, the way they're cut, kind of the radii here. If you look down the side, you can see that they have these kind of channels, gaps in between. That's because the dimensions of the underside of the housing are slightly different, though they still are designed to fit in an OEM plate cutout. And like I mentioned earlier, because OEM plates and aftermarket designed to work with OEM are 1.2 millimeter. You can see they do have these, come on camera, little housing gaskets here to kind of take up that slack, and that prevents them from rattling around, from being able to move. They're pretty solid in there. So as far as my little matrix here, the rows, these are all OEM sliders. This is OEM from a Cooler Master NovaTouch. This is stock unsilenced HHKB. This is stock Type S HHKB, and this is everybody's favorite, the purple Real Force silence sliders. Caps wise, these are ABS doubleshot GMKs. These are all PBT stock OEM in the various colors. As far as row profile, the top two rows are row 3, the bottom ones are row 4. So just wanted to kind of play around, see if we can cause any of these to impact or have any kind of, we'll see what they sound like. All right. And then, yeah, 35 gram Dynacap, that's 45 gram Dynacap. And the bottom, because someone was asking for a comparison, is the 45 gram Metadomes. So let's just do a run through real quick. So right off the bat, you can kind of tell the difference between unsilenced and silenced. So similarly from silenced and then the purple silenced, which they're slightly longer so that they have the full 4 millimeter of key travel. We can do a compare there. And then finally, I did want to highlight, these NovaTouch sliders, because those were kind of the gold standard of MX conversion for several years. I know the Densys design parts are kind of based off of that. Some other makers have kind of made parts similar to those, but I don't fully rate those in the housings, and I don't think that's anything to do with the housings. I think it's just because of how short the barrel on these sliders are. They've always had problems with GMK caps, and I would still say that, like this sound here, I'll show you. So especially that Z, that row 4, and compared to OEM. So even unsilenced to unsilenced. So you can kind of hear a little bit of that, kind of collision sound there. So I probably would not want to run the NovaTouch sliders, but I would fully recommend trying any of the other OEM sliders in their housings. Action on them is incredibly smooth. There's no RO59, or sorry, actually these sliders, I lied there. These sliders are RO59. So maybe I'm kind of throwing the game a little bit, but like for OEM sliders, I think even without the RO59, they do feel that distinctive like smoothness. but I don't think that anyone would have any problems with, you know, non-lubed sliders. They work great. They sound good. The travel is smooth. Yeah, I think these are pretty nice. So. And then one more, because I know this is what everybody was asking for, the full board with Dynacap sliders, Dynacap domes, Dynacap silencing, and a whole bunch of other crap. All right. All right, I think that actually sounds, that's not bad. And like I said, no RO59 on these sliders, no other kind of lube on the sliders, only 206 G2 in the stabs, and a little bit of 105 on the springs, just to, you know, make sure that we don't have any crunch. And you don't really have to do that, but I've started doing it lately, and I kind of like it, so I'm probably going to keep doing it. Anyways, hope that helps. If anybody has any questions, y'all know where to find me, JasonATXBS on the Discords, and hopefully it won't be, you know, a year and a half before I make another one of these. Catch y'all later.